Welcome to Geek Force. Today, we're diving into one of the most haunting Flash stories ever told. A tale of speed, sacrifice, and the devastating weight of power. This is Wally West's descent into darkness. Somewhere in the desert, under an impossible sky, lightning tears through daylight itself. And Wally West stops. But this isn't relief. This is terror. His mind races at incomprehensible speeds, thoughts colliding and fracturing like shattered glass. His body vibrates between dimensions, creating ghostly afterimages that shouldn't exist. Energy crackles from his very being as the speed force tears him apart from within. He knows only one truth in this moment. He has made a terrible mistake. And the cost is everything. The scream that escapes him isn't just pain. It's the sound of a soul breaking. As he collapses to his knees, desperately trying to remember her lessons about slowing down, about breathing, reality shifts. And suddenly, he's 2 days in the past. 15-year-old Wally West walks the railroad tracks of another military town, another temporary home. He passes teenagers gathered around a fire, their laughter echoing in the darkness. But Wally doesn't stop. He never does. He's learned that connections are temporary when your life is measured in transfer orders. Fort Fox looms ahead. Another base. Another cage. The guards know him by now. The colonel's troubled son. Always pushing boundaries. Always testing limits. But tonight, salvation comes in an unexpected form. Dr. Barry Allen. Blonde, confident, understanding in ways Wally's father never could be. At ease. I can escort the prisoner from here. Those words carry more weight than anyone realizes, because Barry Allen sees something in Wally that no one else does. Not rebellion, not defiance, potential. You want to see something cool? 6 words that would change everything. Deep beneath Fort Fox, behind security doors and classified warnings, lies Project Olympus, a laboratory where the impossible becomes inevitable, where physics and biology merge into something more. Glass pods line the walls. Research subjects stare out with 2 intelligent eyes. And Barry Allen speaks of breaking new ground, of pushing boundaries that shouldn't be pushed. We're working on the very razor's edge, he says. But edges are meant to cut. Barry offers Wally something his father never could: purpose. A chance to be more than just another army brat counting days until the next move. But some gifts come with a price too steep to comprehend. Colonel Rudy West's arrival shatters the moment. The confrontation that follows is brutal in its familiarity, a father and son locked in a war neither can win. Civilians are not allowed down here, Allen. But Wally was never just a civilian. He was a catalyst, waiting to ignite. Back in the present, in that scorched desert, they're coming for him. The dust cloud approaches like judgment itself. V-shaped drones circle overhead, mechanical vultures tracking their prey. Captain Snart's team moves with military precision. Jesse, Lisa, Harkness, each a predator in their own right. We take him alive. For now. Those final words hang in the air like a death sentence delayed. Wally runs. But running is what got him here. As his body begins to vibrate again, as the speed force tears at the fabric of time itself, he's pulled back. 1 day ago, the argument between father and son has played out 1,000 times before. But this time, something's different. When Wally storms out into the rain, when lightning flashes over the mountain, he sees it. A vision. Barry Allen, screaming in agony. The lab is wrong when he arrives. The machines are active, humming with terrible purpose. And there, at the center of it all, stands Barry Allen in a suit that seems to bend reality around it. Wally, get away, son. Go. Run. But Wally West has never been good at running away. Only running toward. In the cave's darkness, with Snart's team closing in, Wally finally stops. The truth crashes over him like a tidal wave. Barry Allen's skeletal remains, still wrapped in that impossible suit, tell a story of heroism and horror. Of a mentor who tried to harness forces beyond human comprehension. Of a boy who arrived at exactly the wrong moment. You did this, Wally. You killed him. The thought echoes in the darkness. Because power always demands a price. And sometimes that price is paid by those we love most. 1 year later, a figure moves through the destroyed laboratory with purpose. The archives of Project Olympus flicker to life, revealing images that should have remained buried. Wally West with the test subjects. The suit. Cities in ruins. Mirror. Mirror on the wall. Time to make this whole world fall. The mysterious figure's words carry the weight of prophecy. Because some stories don't end. They merely pause, waiting for the next chapter to begin. And in the world of the Speed Force, the next chapter always comes faster than expected. In the depths of a forgotten cave, surrounded by shadows and secrets, Wally West falls to his knees. Before him lies the skeletal remains of Barry Allen, the Flash himself, a legend reduced to bone and dust. The thoughts, they're moving too fast, racing through his mind like lightning through storm clouds. Wally clutches his head, desperate to make sense of the chaos consuming him from within. But in this moment of vulnerability, he is not alone. Found him. Digger's voice cuts through the silence, like a blade. The boomerangs turn, mechanical predators with laser precision. Wally moves, dodging death by inches, unaware that this is all part of a carefully orchestrated trap. Captain Cold has already sealed the exits with walls of ice, funneling their prey toward a predetermined destination. But beneath it all, something darker is stirring. Outside the cave, Trickster and Glider wait in the shadows. Even these hardened operatives sense it, the wrongness that hangs in the air like a gathering storm. I don't like this. Something's not right about this op, Trickster whispers, her fingers dancing across a grenade surface. She's fought metahumans before. This feels different. This feels dangerous. Wally runs deeper into the mountain, past ice-sealed exits, toward what he believes is freedom. The light ahead promises escape, but promises can be lies. As he emerges from the cave, Glider strikes with energy weapons that could cut through steel. Then time stops. Energy crackles through the air like living electricity. The world slows to a crawl as Wally moves, not running, but becoming speed itself. To Glider's eyes, he's lightning made flesh, crackling and impossible as he tumbles past her attack untouched. What the? She gasps, but the question dies in her throat. Wally stares back in equal surprise. Neither of them understands what just happened. But understanding is a luxury they don't have. Glider charges, and Wally's body responds with power he never knew he possessed. His form begins to blur, reality bending around him like heat waves, until Captain Cold's ice blast finds its mark. Okay, West, that's enough. Time to go home. But home is a concept that no longer exists for Wally West. Pinned to the ground, surrounded by agents who don't comprehend what they're hunting, Wally's mind fractures. The thoughts come faster now, a cascade of self-destruction and fear. I'm ruining everything. I messed up too bad this time. There's no going back. I'm all broken. Power always comes at a cost. And Wally is about to pay the price in full. Energy sparks around him like a dying star. His body vibrates between dimensions, his eyes becoming windows to something beyond human understanding. Leave me alone. The scream tears from his throat as reality itself begins to crack. The ground shifts. The very fabric of existence trembles. That was just the beginning. When Wally opens his eyes, he's back in the lab, back with Barry Allen trapped in his containment bubble. The energy swirls around him like a hurricane of pure potential, stretching his form across the boundaries of what's real and what's possible. Barry, the name is both plea and warning. Take my hand. Hold on. Barry leaps forward, trying to anchor the boy to this reality, to this moment. But some forces cannot be contained, and some powers cannot be controlled. Wally, Barry's voice echoes across dimensions. Then silence. The energy dissipates like smoke, and Barry falls to empty air. Wally is gone, leaving only whispers and shadows. Wally. Barry's whisper carries the weight of failure, of promises broken and lives destroyed. But the shadows move, and from them emerges not the boy, but the father, Rudy West, whose world has just shattered completely. "Alan, what did you do? What did you do to my boy?" The blows rained down, father's fury unleashed upon the man he holds responsible. Barry doesn't fight back. How can you fight the truth? How can you defend the indefensible? But behind them, something impossible takes shape. Energy coils and pulses, taking the vague form of a son lost between worlds. "Dad." The voice is Wally's, but changed, distant, as if calling from across an impossible void. "It's okay, son. It's going to be okay," Rudy whispers, but some wounds cut too deep for comfort. Wally screams and becomes physical once more, reality reassembling him piece by agonizing piece. Barry rushes forward, trying to be the anchor the boy desperately needs. "Wally, look at me. Focus on me. Stay here. Stay with us." But some chains cannot hold what was never meant to be bound. The energy lashes out like a living thing, striking Barry down. Wally screams again, and reality shifts once more. Desert. Heat. The rogues stare at their quarry from behind protective barriers, finally understanding they're not hunting a boy, they're hunting a force of nature. "You're welcome. I told you guys this kid was messed up, but does anyone listen to me?" Trickster's voice carries bitter vindication. She understood before the others. Some prey becomes the predator. The containment bubble forms around Wally, a prison of light and energy. But prisons are only as strong as the will to maintain them. "Let me out." Wally's voice has changed. There's something darker in it now, something that speaks of power without limits. "Sure, hotshot. As soon as we get back to Fort Fox, I'll let you out. Then they're going to open you right up, just like they did with McRory and that Raymond kid." She didn't know what was coming. "I don't want to hurt anyone else, but I will." The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Wally's body vibrates, reality bending around him as he phases through the impossible barrier. Glider gives chase, rocket boots igniting, confident in her superiority. Haven't met anything yet that can outrun. The sound barrier doesn't just break, it shatters. Wally doesn't run. He becomes speed itself, leaving Glider tumbling through empty air and broken expectations. But this is where the real horror begins. As Wally runs, his consciousness slides through time like blood through water. Past, present, future. All become one endless moment of possibility and terror. He sees himself as a child, innocent and whole. He sees himself as a hero, beloved and celebrated. And then he sees the truth. The future shifts like a knife turning in a wound. The world burns. His body becomes nothing more than sparking energy in the vague shape of what was once human. Is he a hero, or is he a monster? The question echoes across dimensions as Wally crashes back to the present, tumbling into dirt that tastes of despair and broken dreams. In the distance, the rogues regroup. Captain Cold stares across the desert with the eyes of a man who has finally understood the true scope of his mission. "Okay, I've had enough of this freak show. But sometimes, to catch a monster, you need a bigger monster. Let him out." Digger's hesitation speaks volumes. There are some doors that should never be opened, some allies that should never be trusted. "You sure you want to do this?" But Leonard Snart has made his choice. When conventional weapons fail, when human ingenuity reaches its limits, there is only one option left. They need Grodd. The armored doors slide open with a whisper of metal against metal. Red eyes gleam in the darkness like dying stars. And from the shadows steps something that should not exist, a small green monkey with an exposed brain, intelligence burning behind those crimson orbs like hellfire. "Surprised?" Grodd asks, his voice gentle as a poison lullaby. The game has changed. The stakes have escalated beyond human comprehension. Wally West ran to escape his destiny, but destiny has a way of finding those who try to outrun it. In the depths of the desert, surrounded by enemies and allies who blur the line between salvation and damnation, a young man's journey toward becoming something more, or something less, than human reaches its next terrifying chapter. Because in the end, power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. And what Wally West is about to reveal will shake the very foundations of what it means to be human, or hero, or monster. Wally can't hold it together anymore. The energy crackles around him like a living storm, unmooring him from time itself. Reality fractures, and in that terrible moment of clarity, he opens his eyes to find himself back in the chamber. The strange energy arcs between him and Barry Allen like lightning made visible. And in that horrifying instant, Wally understands the truth that will haunt him forever. He has just killed Barry Allen. Fear, pure, primal terror, floods through him like ice water in his veins. His body becomes a blur of desperate motion as he dashes past his father, energy sparking around him in chaotic bursts. But even as he flees, he's dragging something behind him. Not something. Someone. Wally glances back, and his world shatters completely. Barry Allen, trapped in that strange suit, is being pulled along Wally's impossible path. But where Wally is pure speed, Barry's death is slow, agonizing, inevitable. Power always demands payment. And sometimes, the price is measured in souls. In the depths of the cave, Wally finally stops. Barry reaches toward him with a hand that should not exist. The skin is peeled away like burnt paper. Parts of his body burn with fires that belong to no earthly flame. "Wally, help me." Barry gasps through lips that crack and bleed. But Wally keeps running. Because some truths are too heavy to bear, and some guilt too deep to face. He finds himself on a farm, a place that speaks of simpler times, when power meant the strength of a man's back and speed meant how fast you could run to escape a storm. Wally stumbles into the barn, his legs finally giving way beneath him. He collapses onto bags of feed that smell of earth and honest work. But there is no rest for those who carry the weight of the impossible. Miles away, Captain Cold speaks into his comm with the measured tone of a soldier reporting casualties. His words carry the weight of failure and the bitter taste of truth. "Yes, sir. I know, Colonel. But the target exhibited extreme side effects from the accident. It was pretty wild, sir." But on the other end of that line stands a father whose world has been torn apart. "That target is my 15-year-old son, Captain. I don't want excuses. I want my boy back alive." Colonel West's voice carries the authority of command and the desperation of a parent who has already lost too much. Snark glances back at his team, hardened operatives who have seen the impossible and lived to tell about it. "I understand. We have deployed the monkey. Sometimes, to save a monster, you need to send another monster." At Fort Fox, Dawn activates the visual feed from their most dangerous asset. On screens throughout the command center, they watch as Grodd, small, green, and impossibly intelligent, makes his way across the plains toward the distant farm. But not all monsters are created equal, and not all of them serve willingly. In the sanctuary of the barn, Wally sleeps the sleep of the emotionally shattered. But peace is a luxury that fate refuses to grant. Eek. Wally awakens to find himself staring into the eyes of the small green creature from Fort Fox. Fear shoots through him like electricity as he pushes himself backward, but something in Grodd's posture, the tilt of his head, the gentleness in those impossibly intelligent eyes, makes him pause. I saw you at Fort Fox. You were in the lab," Wally whispers. Grodd reaches out his hand, the tip of his finger beginning to glow with an otherworldly light. "Eek." "Oh, okay. Hi," Wally says, his voice barely above a whisper as he reaches out to touch Grodd's fingertip. And in that moment, two broken souls recognize each other across the vast emptiness of their shared pain. Grodd's eyes begin to glow, and Wally's match them perfectly. The connection forms like a bridge across an impossible void, and suddenly they are sharing more than sight. They are sharing everything. Grodd sees Wally's loneliness, carved deep by years of military life and distant fathers. He sees the anger that burns like acid in the boy's chest. He witnesses the meeting with Barry Allen, the accident that changed everything. But the memories go deeper, cutting to the bone of what makes Wally who he is. He sees the death of Wally's mother. Cancer. That quiet killer that steals by inches rather than moments. He sees father and son standing before a gravestone, their silence heavy with all the words they could never say. The moment when loneliness became Wally's closest companion. But the exchange flows both ways. Wally sees Grodd's own tragedy, a mother's love cut short by the brutality of poachers. He witnesses the capture, the experimentation, the slow transformation from innocent creature into something that exists between animal and human, belonging fully to neither world. When they finally pull apart, Wally clutches his head as new pain shoots through his skull. But now he hears something he's never heard before, another consciousness speaking directly into his mind. Wally, Grodd. Wally, Grodd, same. The small creature places a gentle hand against Wally's head, and in that touch is an understanding that transcends species, transcends the barriers that humans erect around their pain. I'm scared, Grodd. I don't know what to do. Wally thinks back. But Grodd shakes his head with the wisdom of one who has learned to find strength in shared suffering. Wally no scared. Wally, Grodd same. But even in the depths of understanding, the world refuses to let them rest. A strange whirring sound cuts through the air like a blade through silk. Together, they walk to the barn door and look up into the sky to see death approaching in the form of a boomerang-shaped drone. What is that? Wally whispers. The drone dips toward them, charging with the cold efficiency of military hardware. Wally shouts as the blast destroys the barn in an eruption of fire and splintered wood. They're coming, Wally says, watching the armored vehicle speed toward them like a mechanical predator. His body begins to work at impossible speeds again, energy crackling around him as reality starts to unhitch once more. The fear is still there. Fear of what he's done. Fear of what he might do with this terrible gift. But he is no longer alone. Grodd reaches out and places his finger gently against Wally's forehead. Wally knows scared. Wally and Grodd. Grodd and Wally. The small creature turns away and steps forward, glaring at the incoming vehicle with eyes that burn with more than just intelligence. Inside the armored transport, Captain Cold readies his weapon, but his expression speaks of a man who recognizes that the situation has spiraled beyond any possibility of control. The monkey's gone rogue, Snart shouts. Trickster looks up from her position at the steering wheel, confusion written across her features. What? That can't happen, he's not supposed to. But Grodd's telepathy hits her mind like a sledgehammer, and the vehicle screeches to a halt. From the roof above, Boomerang launches himself toward the two figures below, his glider cutting through the air with deadly precision. But Wally has had enough of running, enough of being hunted like an animal. Energy sparks around him like controlled lightning. Stay here, Grodd. I've got this. He rushes toward Boomerang, his body shifting between dimensions as he dodges the energy blasts from the pursuing drones. For a moment, he appears to exist in two places at once, a living contradiction of physics and possibility. His punch connects with enough force to send Boomerang careening to the ground like a broken bird. Wally, go! Grodd thinks to him urgently as the small creature rushes to keep pace. But Wally shakes his head and holds out his hand to his new friend, perhaps the first real friend he's ever had. Grodd smiles and climbs onto Wally's shoulder. Energy crackles around them both as they dash away in a burst of pure speed, leaving their pursuers in a cloud of dust and broken expectations. In moments, they're standing in the cave, once more, looking down at the body of Barry Allen. Sadness overwhelms Wally as he contemplates the weight of what he's done, how his new power reached out and claimed the life of the one man who tried to help him. But some debts can only be paid with honor. Under the pale light of the moon, they bury Barry Allen properly, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a man who died trying to save someone else's son. Wally holds the strange containment suit that Barry had worn, understanding finally that some things cannot be outrun. The past will always follow. Wally pulls on Barry's suit. The fabric feels like possibility and responsibility woven together. Energy sparks around him as he starts to run, Grodd sitting on his shoulder with a smile that speaks of friendship found in the darkest of places. Wally West is finally free. Free from the fear that defined him. free from the loneliness that consumed him, free to choose what kind of monster or hero he will become. Because in the end, power doesn't determine who we are. Choice does. And for the first time in his life, Wally West is ready to choose. Energy crackles around Wally like electricity made visible, and suddenly, he's somewhere else entirely. Rain falls from a gray sky that weeps for the living and the dead alike. His father stands with bowed head over Mary West's grave, while a priest recites words that are supposed to bring comfort, but only deepen the ache of loss. Wally closes his eyes against the familiar pain. When he opens them again, the mourners have vanished like smoke, leaving only him and the yawning grave. But graves, he's learning, don't always hold what we bury. He walks forward on legs that feel heavy with more than just sorrow, leaning over the edge of his mother's final resting place. But it's not his mother's peaceful form that greets him. Instead, the bottom of the grave swirls with that terrible energy he's come to know too well. And from within that maelstrom of power and chaos, Barry Allen reaches upward with hands that are being torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. "Wally, help me." Barry screams. Wally awakens with a gasp beneath a tree that offers shade, but no sanctuary from the demons in his mind. Fear courses through him like ice water until Grodd's calm presence reminds him where and when he is. "Wall okay?" Grodd thinks as he emerges from Wally's bag like a small green guardian angel. "I'm okay, just a really bad dream." It felt so real. But Grodd crawls forward and presses his forehead against Wally's, sharing the burden of consciousness in a way that transcends species and circumstance. "Wally okay? Grodd okay?" Sometimes the simplest truths carry the most weight. The heat is unbearable, pressing down on them like the weight of unfinished business. Wally pulls on his backpack and looks at his companion. "Let's try and find something to eat. You better get back inside and out of sight." Grodd's displeasure radiates through their mental connection, but Wally's resolve is firm. "We can't afford the extra attention. I promise we'll find a place where you don't have to hide so much." Because freedom, real freedom, sometimes requires sacrifice. They move through Iron Heights on the outskirts of Central City, a place where hope goes to die and dreams turn to dust. The grime and graffiti tell stories of lives interrupted, of potential squandered, of systems that fail the people they're meant to protect. When they finally reach the soup kitchen line, Wally's stomach rebels against the emptiness that has become his constant companion. But even here, in a place designed for charity, trust is a luxury he can't afford. "Hey, how old are you?" a man asks, approaching with a kind of casual friendliness that sets off every alarm in Wally's head. "What's it to you?" Wally responds, his body tensing for fight or flight. But Ralph Dibny's smile is genuine, his hands raised in a gesture of peace that speaks of someone who understands the language of the lost. "Easy, kid. Just letting you know, if you're under 18, we run a youth mission just a block away. You don't have to wait in line here. We have beds and 3 meals a day there. You can stay up to a week at a time." But in Wally's world, kindness has become synonymous with danger. "How do I know you're not a serial killer? Do I look like a serial killer?" "Kinda," Wally mutters, but his attention is caught by a girl walking past, someone his own age, carrying herself with the kind of confidence that only comes from surviving things that would break other people. "Mission's legit. As long as you can stand all Ralph's bad dad jokes," Linda calls over her shoulder, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "Is it air-conditioned?" Wally calls out, following Ralph toward what might be the first real sanctuary he's found. Back in the desert, the rogues sit in the shadow of their failure while scientists probe the strange energy swirl that Wally left behind like a scar on reality itself. "What are your drones seeing, Digger?" Snart asks, his voice carrying the weight of a professional soldier trying to make sense of the impossible. "Hell if I know, Captain. The readings are all over the place." But Trickster sees what the instruments cannot. She jumps down from the armored vehicle and approaches the energy with a kind of fearless curiosity that makes her either brilliant or insane, possibly both. "It's a doorway," she whispers, her voice filled with the awe of someone standing at the threshold of discovery. "What are you talking about, Jesse?" Digger snaps. but his skepticism can't diminish what Trickster is experiencing. I can almost see through it. I can almost see the other side. But some doors should never be opened. The energy expands with violent force, sending Trickster flying backward like a broken doll. When it dissipates, it leaves behind only questions and the bitter taste of failure. Colonel West stalks toward them with the fury of a father whose world has been shattered by forces beyond his control. That's enough. We're done here. I want you 4 reloaded and ready to roll. Understand? Because when conventional methods fail, desperation becomes strategy. You guys couldn't contain a 15-year-old kid. You've been trained to face a lot worse than that, and you choked. Not to mention, you lost the ape. The words hit like physical blows, each one a reminder of how far they've fallen from the precision they once prided themselves on. I'm heading back to Fort Fox. I need to figure out what the hell Barry Allen was doing in that lab of his. I need to find out what happened to my boy. At the youth mission, Wally finds himself in the unfamiliar position of being cared for by strangers who expect nothing in return. He slips food to Grodd while Linda approaches, the girl from earlier, carrying herself with a mixture of wariness and strength that he recognizes. It's, Linda, right? I'm Wally. Her laughter is like music, cutting through the heaviness that has become his constant companion. Wally, are you serious? It was my grandpa's name, but connection, real connection, requires vulnerability. They talk, and Wally finds himself sharing pieces of his fractured life. The constant moving, the military father, the sense of never belonging anywhere. Is that what you're running from? That and other stuff. But when he turns the question back on her, the walls go up again. So, what are you running from? The smile drops from Linda's face like a mask removed, and she stands with the fluid grace of someone preparing to flee. You can finish my meal if you want. I saw you scarf yours down in 3 seconds. See you around, Wallace. For the first time in longer than he can remember, Wally allows himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, they've found a safe harbor. What do you think? Maybe we can stay for a day or 2. Think we're safe here, Grodd. But silence greets his mental query, and when he unzips the bag, his heart sinks. The window is open, and Grodd is gone, disappeared into the night like a small green ghost with his own agenda. Meanwhile, across the city, Colonel West picks through the rubble of Barry Allen's lab, searching for answers among the wreckage of his son's life. But he's not alone in his quest. Colonel West, what are you doing here? Dr. Eleanor Thawne asks, her voice carrying the authority of someone who considers this her domain. That's not the question, Dr. Thawne. The question is, what was Barry Allen doing here? What was the focus of his work? But some truths are more dangerous than lies. Barry Allen was a truly brilliant man. He was exploring tangents of work that lay somewhat outside our original mission statement, Thawne admits, her words carrying the weight of carefully constructed half-truths. Are you saying you don't know what he was doing in here? That you don't know what's happened to Wally? You saw what your son did in the desert. All the weaponry we've developed here for your team didn't stand a chance against Wally. And then comes the truth that changes everything. He's a 15-year-old boy, not one of your test subjects.
Wrong.
He was a 15-year-old boy. Now, he is a miracle. The accident killed Barry Allen. But his death doesn't need to be for nothing. Your son may be the greatest success we've had. The words hang in the air like poison, transforming a father's love into a scientist's ambition. But Thawne isn't finished revealing the scope of their nightmare. You don't understand the full extent of what we're dealing with here, West. Your son was not the only thing that escaped the night of the accident. She leads him to another room, motioning to several shattered containment tubes that speak of horrors unleashed. Some of our more volatile experiments are in the wild, and the ape is leading your son right to them. In the sewers beneath the city, Wally chases Grodd through tunnels that reek of decay and broken dreams. The heat hits him like a physical force, and he realizes they're descending into something far worse than simple darkness. What the hell are you doing? Wally thinks to Grodd, frustration and fear warring in his mental voice. Wally and Grodd stop. Grodd responds, leading him deeper into the sweltering maze. Come on, let's just go back. But some journeys can only go forward. They round a corner, and Grodd points with the urgency of someone who has found what he was looking for. Hot. Hot is here. Wally follows Grodd's gesture and stops short. The heat is overwhelming now, radiating from a figure that should not exist, cannot exist, in any rational world. Project Heatwave stands before him. Lava pours off the creature's body like liquid death, and when it turns toward Wally, he sees in its eyes the same kind of transformation that has claimed him, the same kind of accident that turns boys into legends and legends into nightmares. Because in the end, Wally West is about to learn that he is not alone in his transformation. He is not the only monster that Fort Fox has created, and some reunions are written in fire and pain. Wally stares in shock at the magma-covered monster before him, fear coursing through his veins like ice water. But as he looks into the creature's eyes, those burning, tormented eyes, something stirs in his memory. A flicker of recognition. A ghost of humanity trapped within living flame. Slowly, cautiously, he reaches out his hand. Energy crackles around them without warning, leaping from Wally's body like lightning seeking Earth. The blast hits the monster with devastating force, hurling it across the sewer tunnel and slamming it into the concrete wall with a sound like thunder underground. The creature slowly climbs to its feet, and in its eyes, Wally sees something that chills him to the bone. Not just rage, not just pain, hurt. And hurt things grow dangerous. The monster raises its arm and launches molten death toward Wally. But the energy crackles around him again, and suddenly he's moving at speeds that defy comprehension. The world becomes a blur as he zips out of the way of the lava, looping from floor to ceiling in patterns that would be beautiful if they weren't born from desperation. Wally, help him. Grodd thinks urgently as they return to solid ground. Help him. Wally thinks back in surprise, watching as the monster climbs through a nearby sewer grating and pulls itself toward the surface. The creature emerges just outside the Dibney Youth Mission, where hope goes to find its daily bread. A line of wayward teens, kids who've learned that the world can be cruel but still believe it might be kind, scatter in terror as living magma rises from the depths of the city. Ralph Dibney steps between the monster and the children with the kind of courage that only comes from understanding that some stands must be taken regardless of the odds. Linda, take the others. Run. Ralph hisses over his shoulder. But heroes, real heroes, are made in moments like these. Meanwhile, back at Fort Fox, the rogues sit in their break room discussing the mundane details of weapons that were never meant to be mundane. Digger examines one of his boomerang drones with the focused attention of a craftsman. There's just a slight delay in responsiveness. The others seem fine. Can you please take that damn helmet off, Jesse? We're in the lounge. Golden Glider points out, irritation crackling in her voice like static electricity. I'll take mine off when you take yours off, Lisa. But beneath the surface of professional banter, tensions run deeper than anyone wants to acknowledge. Glider crosses the room and grabs Trickster, anger flashing across her features like lightning in a storm. But their confrontation is interrupted by Dr. Thon's arrival, her presence filling the room with the kind of authority that comes from holding all the cards. That's enough. I'll remind you both that the gifts I've given you can be taken back. Snart doesn't look up from his coffee, his voice carrying the weariness of a soldier who's seen too much. They're just blowing off steam. Document sitting around here waiting isn't exactly helping our morale. But the waiting is about to end. Wally has been sighted in Central City. You're being sent to contain him. And there's one more thing you four should know. We believe Grodd has led the boy to your former comrade, McRory. The truth hits like a physical blow. Snart finally stands, his coffee forgotten, and turns to glare at Thon with eyes that have seen betrayal before but never quite like this. Rory? I thought you said he didn't survive the tests. What else have you lied to us about, Thon? You were told what you needed to hear, Captain Snart. Because in the world of Fort Fox, truth is a luxury that only the powerful can afford. At the mission, Ralph desperately tries to shepherd the children to safety, but the monster that McRory has become turns and hurls liquid fire at them with the fury of someone who has lost everything that made him human. Look out, Ralph shouts, pushing a teenage girl to safety as molten death splashes where she had been standing. Below them, in the tunnels where nightmares are born, Wally faces his own demons. He falls to his knees, clutching his head as energy threatens to tear him apart from the inside. It sparks around the tunnel like caged lightning, bouncing off stone walls that have seen too much darkness. But Grodd is there, small, green, and infinitely compassionate. Wall is okay, Grodd thinks as he takes Wally's face in his tiny hands, pressing their foreheads together in the universal gesture of shared burden. I'm scared, Grodd. Okay to be scared, but people scared too. Heat need Wally together. Sometimes the simplest wisdom carries the greatest power. Wally begins to calm, the energy slowly dissipating like storm clouds after rain. He gets to his feet and reaches for his backpack with hands that still tremble but no longer shake with fear. Okay, we can do this, right? We can stop that thing. He pulls out Barry Allen's suit, that strange garment that carries the weight of sacrifice and the promise of redemption. What could go wrong? Famous last words in a world where everything that can go wrong usually does. On the street above, Rory slides forward like a living avalanche of destruction, reaching for Ralph and the fallen girl with hands that leave molten handprints on the asphalt. But suddenly, Wally appears in a blaze of energy that turns night into day. He slams into the magma monster with the force of a freight train, knocking it away from the innocent with an impact that shakes windows 3 blocks away. Ralph stares at Wally and his green companion in shock that transcends simple surprise. Wally, what are you wearing? Not now, Mr. Dibney. You just need to get out of here. Wally rushes forward again, channeling energy that crackles around him like visible willpower. How do I stop this thing, Grodd? Not stop. Help. Heat. Wally, take heat. And in that moment, Wally understands that sometimes saving someone means taking their pain into yourself. He reaches out, trying to channel the energy that flows through him like a river of liquid lightning. Suddenly, there's a spark that passes between them, a connection that transcends the physical and ventures into realms where science fears to tread. Raw energy surges, hitting them both with the force of creation itself. Wally screams as he's lifted into the air, pain surging through his body like molten metal in his veins. Then suddenly it's gone. He opens his eyes to find himself in a realm that exists between what is and what might be. Stars sparkle in impossible distances, and reality bends like light through water. A voice calls to him from across the cosmic void. Wall. Who was that? Who's there? Something reaches out, a swirling visage that begins to solidify into something almost human. Wally watches in fascination and terror as a hand begins to form, reaching for him across dimensions that have no names. Fear overwhelms him like a breaking dam. No, stop. Suddenly he's back on the street, Ralph Dibney leaning over him with concern written across his features. Wall, are you okay? Wally struggles to his feet, looking around in shock at a world that seems both familiar and forever changed. But there's no time to process what happened, because Grodd is shouting in his mind, pointing to something impossible. Where the monster had been, McRory now stands, human, confused, and desperately vulnerable. Wally, help. Linda joins Ralph, both trying to understand what they've witnessed, but their conversation is cut short by the sound of approaching helicopters. Military choppers fill the sky like mechanical vultures. Grodd rushes forward and jumps onto Wally's shoulder. Energy crackles around them, and in a flash of super speed, they disappear, leaving behind only questions and the lingering scent of ozone. Back at Fort Fox, Dr. Thawne watches the GPS monitors as the red locator signal suddenly accelerates beyond normal human comprehension. He's on the move again. We need the boy back unharmed. I'd prefer Grodd in one piece too, but he is expendable if necessary. Captain Snart doesn't move, his voice carrying the weight of loyalty tested beyond its breaking point. And McRory? Rory is to be contained. Colonel West will take point on that. But as she looks around the room, she realizes that Colonel West is nowhere to be found. Colonel West uses Barry Allen's security card to access areas that exist beyond his authorization. The door slides away to reveal something that challenges everything he thought he knew about human science and alien possibility. A strange craft sits in the darkness, like a question mark made of metal and mystery. But as he steps through to the next room, his eyes widen at a sight that redefines the very concept of impossible. Stasis tanks line the walls, each containing alien bodies that speak of secrets buried deeper than any official clearance level. The real secrets of Fort Fox. Because sometimes the greatest conspiracy is the one hiding in plain sight. And Colonel West is about to learn that his son's accident was never an accident at all. It was always part of a much larger plan. This is Geek Force. See you next time.